Welcome to the Pull Your Soul podcast. We are here with Kevin Ronca, co-founder of Right Brain TV. We're here to pull your soul with the truth, with a good time, and with love for yourself and the universe. Thank you for fucking coming on the show. We are going to talk about numerous amount of topics. You're a filmmaker, kind of, the founder of that company, a anti-imperialist streaming service. So you got your, just thanks for coming. First off, just thanks.
I appreciate that. Thanks for inviting me. We don't get invited on a lot of podcasts. We're a little too film for the political podcast, and we're a little too political for the film cats. So it's hard to get on anything. So I appreciate you having me.
Well, what's that one movie called? Death to America. Like very, very polarizing, and that's whatever. That's okay. You go for that, and I'm surprised you're not invited to a lot of podcasts because when you talk, you fucking talk. You just talk. I'm not shitting on you. You know what I'm saying? And it's awesome. We've had some good conversations. So you got your start kind of around, outwardly on the internet or whatever in 2016-ish, 2015-ish, with that documentary Viggo with Viggo Mortensen narrating that. But that is not out, and we had a long conversation about why that got removed. But how did that kind of come together? Like, there's a really interesting story to how that came together when it happens.
Yeah, and I'll try to keep it as brief as I can. So before I did that Revolution Televised, I had a political awakening like most people in 2016. I lived pretty ignorant to the world around me, and when I was in LA, I wanted to be one of those high concept screenwriters. I was wanting to write screenplays, but just for the sake of storytelling, not to communicate anything on any kind of higher message. I think what my scripts always lacked was really strong themes and motifs. I mean, I was writing about addiction because I lost a lot of people in the opioid epidemic, but I definitely was pretty ignorant to any global politics. And that just goes to show you, look where I'm at now with how radicalized I've become. I mean, that was 2016, so I was probably in my early 30s. So I went until 30 years without having any understanding of the world around me outside of my own self. And so I skipped class at one point to work on a script, and I decided to watch the debate because I had been hearing about Bernie Sanders. I could tell you even before, like, he was even on the register, like the moment he announced when he was probably 3% chance of beating Hillary, he was completely unknown by most people. My friend had showed me this very politically savvy guy, a bumper sticker for Bernie Sanders, like, oh, you got to watch this guy. He's going to be big, but it completely left my mind. So when I saw these debating, I decided to watch it. And it just definitely, like, a lot of people had radicalized me. I'm not embarrassed to admit that, but I got pretty fucking It's like when you've never taken drugs. Like, I can relate it to like when I didn't take drugs in high school, and then I finally took some shit and was like, oh, okay, so this is what's been really going on, like, this is the real deal. And then I just wanted to fuck, like, that's how I was. Like, tried weed, and I was like, I want to try acid. I want to try 2CI. I want to try DMT. I mean, I went hard because it was like so long as like the pressure builds up like a pistol. So political awakening was even stronger. It's like I'm looking about Syria and parts of Africa and what's been going on, and 50 coups by the U.S. government, Cuba. I mean, it was a fucking awakening. So I followed it really closely, and I got really sucked into it and thinking like this might be our last chance. But more so from a filmmaker standpoint, I was looking for a project to make. And when you have no budget, you really have two options, in my opinion, in film school, if you want to try to get something off the ground. On no budget, you either got horror or documentary. Horror has always been the traditional path for most people. But when I started looking at the world we were living, I realized the horror movie was happening around me. I couldn't conceive anything more terrifying than, as Max Blumenthal said, Nurse Cratchit getting the nuclear codes, which would be Hillary Clinton. So, you know what I mean? That's what he said. I was like, so once I looked, mass incarceration, I mean, all these things that election brought up stirred up a lot of stuff that we had kind of overlooked, not just Hillary Clinton, I think beyond her, of these just horrific acts against humanity that, these war criminals and mass murders that these ruling classes, that when that came together, I saw that the convention was going to be happening in Philadelphia, and I've been following the whole primary and everything. And like, I know Philly really well. Like, I was homeless in Philly for a while. Like, I know how to get around Philly. And the fact that it was going to be there, and then it brought to light sort of the last really big primary like that, which is what inspired Medium Cool. I knew that I could get around Philly pretty easily. So I got the best camera guy I knew, and I said, I will pay you, I pay for your plane ticket, and I'll get us somewhere to sleep. But beyond that, when you're in film school, that's the time to ask for those kind of favors or those kind of projects, because once people get out, their rates begin, then real life begins, and they have to start charging you real money, right? So I knew that I could get this guy for a pretty fair deal. So I flew him out there, and I had people out there that put us up and everything. I mailed myself drugs. Just for when I'd have them, because I knew I was going to be on my feet a lot. So I made sure I had the proper necessities to be able to go 12, 14 hours. It was blistering hot. And so we shot the whole thing, right? That was when I fell in love with the style of how we make movies now. Like at that time, though, I didn't realize it wasn't really done with any kind of strategy, but this is how me and Mark make movies now. But I basically just took the best camera guy I knew and was like, I'm going to take you to all these places where shit's going to be happening. Because I knew what the rallies were, and I had been in touch with Jill Stein and Cornel West and some people. So I knew where things were going to be happening. At this time, though, the reason I made this movie was there was not an independent leftist. Now if you throw a stapler out your window, you could hit 5 leftist podcasters, right? Like your butcher, the guy who sells you your blunts, and probably the guy at the local Dunkin' Donuts all as a leftist podcast, right? At that time, though, the Young Turks was all there was. There was no Tim Black, wasn't even that much of a thing. There was no Vanguard, all these goofy bread tubers. They didn't exist back then. I swear to God, it was only the Young Turks. So as a filmmaker, it's you only want to be filming something you don't, because you think that it needs to exist. And I was like, no one is going to film what's really happening in Philly this weekend. I knew shit was going to be really crazy. I was in the communication with a lot of people online. I knew people were pissed off and were flying there. If you were in any face group at that time, you knew there was going to be a ton of different kinds of people there. But you knew the media was not going to show what was going on because of what had happened during the primary. That's when I really realized how much the media is a scam, is how they treated Bernie during that, and how much they were in the pocket of Clinton. So for me, it was we're going to film the truth was my idea. So I'm going to take you where everything is, and we're going to see how it's really being filmed by the media to what we're actually documenting. So we shoot this whole thing, right? And the style was I would lose my DP in the crowd because it was just fucking mayhem. And I would sometimes meet him 3 hours later, and I just carried an H4 around in my pocket. I mean, that was really how loose the whole thing was. We'd just take him places and just tell him to just film whatever happens. We had no idea. There was no shot list whatsoever. And we got back, and I'm looking at the footage, and it was banger. This guy was real. I took a guy from LA who will never ever go out of his way to see this kind of shit, and put him in the craziest mayhem and just told him just film whatever.
So what was the mayhem? Was it kind of people protesting against Clinton or protesting for this person? What exactly was the mayhem? I know it was the Democratic, it was the convention, right? But what exactly was happening there?
So because it became more and more clear that, it'd never been so clear that the media was in the pocket of Clinton, that the DNC, because no one had challenged them so much from the outside. So Bernie was doing so well. He went from 5%, he soared up. And since she thought she was sort of she felt like this was her coronation. So when she was challenged by Bernie, she never took him seriously, but she didn't register, because the whole Democratic Party lives in such a bubble, how truly dire the situation was for working class people, how truly despised they were by working class people. That had never even been a consideration for them. And Bernie represented all those non-voters, even people from the right, all these people who just felt completely lost and let down by the system. I think that we all kind of projected whatever it was about us that was missing or that was hurting in our communities onto Bernie. That was probably our mistake. But the convention was incredibly close, because the primary was incredibly close, and Bernie was going to allegedly contest the convention, and that had not been done in decades. So I don't know if ever a truly contested convention. So I think that that was something a lot of people were excited to see. But because they knew that this was a very high profile election, when people had been pretty much politically unaware and not interested since Obama's first one, that had a lot of attention. But after that, people kind of tuned out. This was the most engaged a lot of people had been. A lot of people were awakened like me, but a lot of people knowing there'd be media attention there, were traveling there. You had people from honestly right-wing movements. You had Flint Lives Matter was a movement that was there. You had the Green Party. I mean, you just had all these clusters, this kind of mosaic of different, people were burning Israeli flags there. There were people from the North Dakota pipeline there. I mean, it was this massive salad of just so many different kinds of people. And seeing that many people united together and having footage of that, I don't think we've been to that collectively together since then. And I think that there was a lot of there was rioting, there was, police helicopters, there was the first Black Lives Matter rally ever, I think, was that weekend, Ralph. I mean, I think that the statement had been said before, but a truly mobilized I mean, they like rolled up in these caravans. It was, you know, it was definitely popping off that weekend, and there was a lot of people there, and there was people laying down so that the celebrities can get into the convention. There's people climbing the fence. I mean, we had just never seen anything like that in Philly to that extent, you know, like Obama was big in Philly. I mean, this just kind of showed you like how truly let down the inner city was as they rallied behind Obama and they fucking mobbed out to kind of reject the Democratic Party just 4 years later.
Well, I mean, I think at that moment, people were kind of realizing that the Obama administration was kind of like just a nicer version of like the Bush administration. Like it was just kind of an extension. I forget who said that it was an extension. It might have been Jimmy Dore who said that the Obama administration was just an extension of the Bush administration in terms of foreign policy mainly, but you know, domestically it was pretty different. And I think I had a friend on who said that in 2016, if it was Bernie versus Trump, it would have been one of the close elections of all time because you have right populism and left populism at the same time.
I think so. And I think Bernie could have bled some of his, and maybe vice versa. I think they actually could have came after each other's bases, where I feel like with Trump and Clinton, you weren't flipping either person's base really. They were both like cult-like in that regard. Like no matter what, Clinton could have murdered 1,000 people and it wouldn't have mattered, and Trump could have shot somebody in Central Park, it wouldn't have mattered. I think they were entrenched. Bernie and Trump was a little different. I think he might have flipped people either side. Maybe Bernie might have gone a little wrong on some of the identity stuff, or the sort of the Christian nationalists might have flipped on him. But I also think he could have pulled some of Trump's base for sure if he said the right things. Now, would Bernie do that? I don't know. Like he gets very caught up in these little, you know, he's still a cult member through and through. His idea is to be the sheep herder into the cult. He's the guy who's like, I'm not like the rest of those Democrats, but come this way and vote Democrat. I will say to answer your question about Viggo Mortensen. So I got back and I didn't know what to do with all this footage. I had never directed a documentary. I never edited before. I strictly wanted to be like a screenwriter or someone who directed like narrative films. So this was like completely new to me. The first thing I did was I watched like 150 docs. No lie, I was not a big documentary watcher. So I watched like, I had this list. It was ridiculous. I was mashing like 4 or 5 of them a day.
Which one? Give an example of which ones you watched.
Dude, I watched everything from like Amy, Harlan County, Titty Cup Follies, all the John Pilger stuff, you know, Black Power mixtape, or Black Panther mixtape, Agnes Varda stuff, Chris Marker stuff. I mean, every possible form of documentary, because there's so many different ways that one can make one. What is it? The seventh, I think it's called The Seventh Fire. It's produced by Terrence Malick about indigenous gangsters who live on reservations. That was so fire. I think it's The Seventh Flame. It's about, I mean,
Big
it's about
Terrence Malick. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's a really dope doc about like what's happened to the indigenous communities and their culture. You have like a kid who's like, you know, whatever, he's from a certain tribe and has such deep roots, and he's like, you know, all that stuff on his walls crossed out, and he's just got like a poster of Scarface. You know, it just showed how like westernized, and it was really raw though. But you know, The Other Side's another doc that's great from 2015. I think that movie's shocking. It shows a woman giving a blowjob in an Obama mask at some Florida party. It's or Louisiana party. It's about a really small town in Louisiana. It follows around a drug dealer. He's a meth dealer. Shows him cooking meth. Shows him. It's a really raw doc, but also
that sounds crazy. Yeah.
Midway through, the guy gets arrested, and the plot completely shifts, which is interesting, to like a militia that wants to overthrow the government, but they live in like Louisiana, and like thinking about this part of Louisiana hadn't really extended out too far. It like never quite got from its roots, so it's like. But yeah, I mean anything. I mean, this list was a mix of lists I found online because I just didn't know where to start with like the language of documentary. I didn't realize there were so many ways to tell the story. But I knew I needed a narrator. I knew the whole thing was just like very, at least I thought I did. I knew it was just a very visceral experience that needed to be explained better. This is the thing about the doc and why I fucking hate this doc, and why when I get emails about people saying, can I put it back up because they had it on their playlist or something, is like, I don't think documentaries are meant to teach people stuff, but at that time I felt like I was a teacher, and that documentary's role was to be the teacher. And I just don't agree with that at all. I think that you should be going into it not knowing, where I felt like going into this doc, like I'm going to show people what was going on at this time and teach them what they were missing and like what was really happening here. At the end of the day, human beings really don't know anything. And I think that we should be only going in with questions and only coming out with questions. And that's the same thing. If not, your audience is going to just eat the doc up. It's like, oh, I had questions, I have answers. He answered it. And that shouldn't be it at all. It should be the beginning of a quest where it's like, I watched your doc and I have a lot of questions now, and questions will make people go out and be active. It'll feel like it's something they can't digest in their throat. It's on their mind. But if you just eat it, it's like, oh, I wanted to know this math equation and I watched this doc and it taught me it. Now, like, that's it.
Yeah.
With Viggo, it's like I knew I needed a narrator, so I emailed, like, we had a list of like 50. I mean, it was everything from Pam Grier, it was Pam Grier, Danny Glover, everyone from the Bernie Crat type of celebrities, people that just be interesting. Like Pam Grier was somebody else that would be an interesting choice, and nobody responded. Elliot Gould responded. I loved Elliot Gould from the stuff he did with Altman. He got back to us, but he was like, he needed money and these things that we weren't going to be able to. Walton Goggins got an email and actually responded, which I'm sure you could never reach Walton Goggins now. But back then, the fact that he answered, I don't know why Walton Goggins was even on the list, but like, I really don't remember why it was everyone. But Viggo was like one of the last one. Was like, oh, Viggo was getting really popular at that time, going on talk shows and talking about the Green Party and stuff. We're like, okay. So we sent him. I actually looked him up, and I couldn't believe that he actually had his manager's email on IMDb Pro. And usually those were often like not always that reliable. But so I emailed, it was like a very base email address. Like it sounded like somebody like a personal email address. So I emailed this guy.
Yeah, like AOL or something.
Yeah. I was super honest too. I was like, I don't have any money. I can't pay you. But I think this is a really important project. And that we documented something that the media is never going to show. And I kid you not, like 2 weeks later, I get home and I check my email. I get home from school. I was living in Pasadena, and it's just like, it was just like, yo, it's me, Viggo. I couldn't like it was like, I almost forgot I didn't come, and I was like, oh my God, I started fucking screaming. He was like one of my dad's favorite actors. I was just going crazy. And it made it a lot easier to get people on the project. Suddenly, like, everyone was offering to edit episodes for free. I was able to get like a whole team together, just all Viggo. And that was, I mean, that's how projects start to roll downhill, is like you attach someone like that. A lot of people want to be on that project, especially students. And my chairman, when he found out, who's the guy who wrote Rush Hour, he suddenly was letting me miss class and being a lot more, accommodating to the project once he found out Viggo Mortensen was involved. So that was dope. But Viggo was even cool. Like, he was like, I want to rewrite parts of he's like, send me the script. So I had a whole narration written that took me like so long, and it was definitely too long, and it was explaining every facet of what was happening during this primary and what was happening overseas. It was really like insane. And I was watching a lot of like Casino and like Scorsese films of like the long elaborate narrations and stuff. But I sent it to Viggo, and he's like, do you mind if I rewrite parts of the script? And I was like, dude, whatever you want, anything, and so stuff in there like saying like fuck the CIA and stuff. I mean, at one part he's like saying fuck the CIA during talking about like the crack cocaine Iran Contra scandal and stuff. Like, he wrote a lot of that stuff, and I was down for it. He's like, I'm gonna record it in my studio in Spain and I'll email it to you. And he did, and I got to go to his house, which was trippy. He's like, he was in town at one point, and he was going to go on a live stream with Jill Stein and stuff. And he's like, will you guys come over and help me set it up or whatever? That was really cool. He doesn't even have like internet. His internet didn't even barely it was weird. Like, we couldn't get on his internet. He had like this backdoor thing going on. Like, he was pretty paranoid, but he was really cool. Unfortunately, the only photo I have with him, I was way strung out at the time. I was taking a lot of drugs to make that movie because we had to do it in like 2 or 3 months. But my eyes are completely like shut. I mean, it's not a great photo. It's like my only evidence of being with Viggo Mortensen. I'm like, making this crazy face. But no, he was really cool. The problem is the plan was to put it out like right before the election, and I just realized it wasn't going to be good. I realized too late, like, we could get it out by that time, working constantly, because this was like, we had like 3 months to put it together, but it's like, this is going to be shit. And my teacher explained to me, my documentary teacher, like, you got to make a tough choice. Like, put it out when you and Viggo agreed, which is the most impactful, or risk like putting it out slightly like week by week instead of all at once, and like give yourself more time, but it's going to be post-election and it might not be as relevant, or it might be more. It was a huge gamble and it was a huge mistake. The quality was better, but after the election, no one gave a fuck. Even reaching Viggo was like near impossible. Like, it was dead. And I think he lost confidence in it once he found out it wasn't going to come out at that crucial time.
Yeah, that is how it is. And especially with documentaries, like, it is really, there's so much editing to be done there, like, and making it entertaining. It's really hard to do with like documentaries, especially. So why did you end up removing it and not kind of keeping it up after that?
Because I think it's trash. I think it's trash. There's a lot of reasons I think it's trash. A shout out to the guy who shot it. I think he did a great job. I think the writing's trash. I think it's over explanatory. It's too time centric, so it doesn't have really like universal relevance. Like if you weren't around during the Bernie time, it lionizes Bernie Sanders, which is like I think it's a crime. I think it's a cinematic crime. If there was like a prison you could go to as a filmmaker, I think there's a lot of stuff in that film that I think are immoral, and I would be put into some kind of a gulag and like re-educated on how to like properly make cinema and use it as a real weapon. I mean, I'm hard on myself, but I think it's a disgrace. I think the lionizing and Bernie, I think the lionizing and Bernie is embarrassing. The use of uncopyrighted music, as much as I don't agree with copyright, we were using just stuff that like Jimi Hendrix. I mean, it's just, to me, it's cringy to watch now. And like, there's effects in there that things don't move with purpose. And there's just one motive of the whole thing. And that's to get you, in my opinion, to like support this Bernie Sanders rogue wing of the Democratic Party. And I think that if that's or the Green Party, and as much as I like Jill Stein, and a lot of people don't know this, I edited Jill Stein's launch video this election. I was brought in to do it. She didn't tell anybody. I wasn't allowed to tell anyone I did it because she didn't want to be associated with Death to America. But I was brought in to do it. I was one of the first people that found out she was running, and even her. Like, I don't fuck with politicians, and I ended up. They wanted me to be like their media person for their whole campaign, and I quit. Well, I didn't even join it, but I'm saying like I did one video for him as a favor to her, and I helped her with her Palestine video, and I said I'm done. I don't want anything else to do with it. You were a friend, so I was doing you a favor, but I don't want to be involved with this campaign. So I'm saying all politicians, no documentary should ever lionize any politicians, in my opinion. Like, it'd be one thing if you lived in Cuba or somewhere like that, but there's not a single politician in America that's worthy of a fucking film that lionizes them.
Yeah, and I think, maybe they didn't respond well to like the Death to America stuff. Probably, I just think that like you might have been a little too like hardcore with their release, and I think that even though the Green Party is still kind of really farther left, I think that you're just all the way, you're past what people that vote for them.
Yeah, but here's what bugs me about it is when I got the call from Jill, I hadn't heard from her in 3 years. I was in China when COVID broke out, so I was one of the first people to experience COVID. So I had shot a film, and when I got back, I was talking to Jill a lot because we were connected during the Revolution Televised, and then sitting around our houses a lot during COVID. So we would call each other maybe like once every 6 months just to check in. I used to have a crush on her a long time ago. I'll admit that. I'm not into older broads like that, but I did think she was smoking hot. I think it was probably her political beliefs too. But anyway, we became like friends, and so we'd call each other occasionally. And I was checking in with her during COVID, and she was saying her son didn't have any masks, and their hospital was out of masks. Well, my father-in-law, always the business-minded guy, realized that he's like, I'm gonna mail you guys like 1,000 masks because COVID's definitely coming to the U.S. and it hasn't gotten there yet, and like, you could sell them really cheap to people because masks are going to be hot commodities. So I was like, okay. So I had like 1,000 masks before COVID came just in our closet, like N95, because they made them really cheap over there. So I sent a bunch to Jill. So I sent like a ton to Jill when her son didn't have any, and thought that was a really kind thing to do. And she just never spoke to me for like, I lost touch with her for a long time. She was very paranoid. She was under investigation at the time because they didn't want her to run again. Flash forward, like, it was like, what, like, last year, Mark's at my house. He's actually living with me at the time. And I get a call from Jill. I haven't heard from this person in 2.5 years. And she's like, Kevin, you can't tell anyone this, but like, I'm going to run. But I want you to do my media stuff. I want that right brain energy. I want it to be hardcore. And I told her, I said, this is not 2016 anymore. If you're going to run like a Bernie campaign, like, I don't think you're going to win. And I don't really want to be involved in it. She's like, no, I want it to be raw. So I then met with her team. I said, like, she's like, I want it to be, I like the right brain style. I want that to be what my media stuff looks like. It's hardcore, it's intense, but that's where we're at. And I said, I'll do it. But like, we turned down almost all commission work because we're control freaks. And that's not what a commission job usually is. And I said, I'll do it if I get full creative control. Like, I want to be able to really be the vision of like what this feels like. Cause you could find any like fucking doofus to like cut you together some really like stock footage and crappy music and whatever. Like, you can find anyone to do that. You know, like, there's no reason to hire me because I was so busy doing this. Like, we were trying to arrange this Cuba event that was taking up so much of our time that I was like, I'm only doing it if I can really go hard. So, dude, that first director's cut, me and Mark looked at it, we're like, this is so fire. It was like globalize the Antifa. Like, it was fucking hardcore. I mean, there were shots of, some pretty extreme imagery to really capture what was going on. And yeah, it just got rejected outright. It was like her campaign manager got brought in. He was a fucking dweeb, dude. This guy's like telling me on the phone how it's supposed to be done. And I was like, okay, well, So you want me to put a guy with a clipboard and have like solar panels? Like, I couldn't believe what he was telling me he wanted me to do. When he switched the music, he had like Spielberg notes on everything. And I'm like, so after a while, like I just got fed up with it. And I'm like, bro, I just had like, how many elections have you won? He said none. And he was an asshole too. And I said, so I finally flipped. I'm like, how many elections have you won? None. I said, how many videos have you made that have gotten over 200,000 views? Because I've made a few. He said none. I said, okay. So why the fuck are you giving me notes on what I'm supposed to do? And like,
Yeah.
so I mean, yeah. But what I learned from that like thing with Jill was it was just a lot of bullshit. Like, you know, she agreed to come on our launch party if I did the video at a discount. Then suddenly she wasn't allowed to go on the launch party because Rome was going to be like death to America. It just, to me, the point I go back to is like, I don't trust any of these fucking politicians, any of them. And then make a documentary that would ever lionize them the way we did Bernie, even though we kind of give him shit at the end, is just, it's disgraceful. It should be nuked from the internet, is what I really think about that doc.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you have him kicking out people of his rallies, and they're like, because they're saying the Palestine stuff, and then you have AOC's voting to send money to Israel. So, you know, I think people kind of have this false notion that they're sticking it to the man when they support Bernie or AOC. It's like, the fuck are you talking about? You know, I mean, relatively, yes, because right now Democrats aren't in power and they are resisting, but it's like, it's the same. I mean, no, I like the No Kings quote. It's like, when the No Kings rallies were all funded by people within like corporations and Walmart, you know, and shit. And it's like, they just want another king to go in, and they're going to do the same foreign policy, you know. And I think it's all a bunch of bullshit. And I like how you, even though I vehemently kind of disagree with more than half of your politics, I like that you're very principled about it, and you don't just dick eat, you know what I mean? Because people just dick eat, and they're like, oh, you're gonna be good, you're gonna be moderately, maybe you'll do this, and then it's like you get somebody elected and they just don't do anything. Like they appeal to like the radicals or people that like actually have principles and opinions, whether that be on the right or the left, and then they get in the office and it's the same fucking bullshit.
Yeah, no, but the only value I think in that film is for myself. I think the films that you make early on are really important, and even if I think it was a dumpster fire, what a learning lesson it was to try to put together something so massive in just a few months with a team of people on a genre you've never done before. That alone, like, that adds a lot of fucking muscle to, you know what I mean, that you've never worked out. That they're like, it's good to do those kind of chaotic processes. So selfishly, like, that's the best part of that. Probably working with a big name, all these little lessons I learned, like how to manage a bigger talent, like those things were huge. That project worked like 50 muscles I never worked.
That's good. That's good to hear that it, like, you know, definitely, you know, stressed out and drew a filmmaker muscle kind of with that shit. So what was after that?
We did the Revolution Televised. When it was over, the whole audience eroded. Everybody didn't give a shit. Everyone went back to sleep, and we're like, we're never doing that again. Let's do something else. Let's do a doc. We have a meeting. It's 9 a.m. We're blowing coke. There's probably 10 right brain members at this point, and we're going around. Everyone's pitching ideas. Nothing's really sticking for me. This guy shows us footage from like, no, it's a very anonymous account. No views, like 50 views. I don't even know how he found it. He didn't know how he found it. And it's just footage of people ODing, people fist fighting, all on camcorder. So we shot Revolution Televised on like a really nice Blackmagic. I hadn't seen anything on camcorder. Now it's really popping, but like at like 2018, it was not. And I was like, this is sick. I try to hunt down who the footage belongs to, and the movie was supposed to come out in 2013 and just never did. And it's a guy in a homeless shelter. And I'm like, either he's a nut who just filmed some shit, or he's a genius and he knows exactly what he's doing. I call him at school. It turned out he's a fucking genius. I kind of ask him all the litmus test questions, and he's naming filmmakers I never heard of. He's naming Foster Wallace, who were at Infinite Jest, all this shit. And I'm like, this guy's really smart. So I agree to fly him out to live with me. So I fly him from the shelter to live with me. We go pick him up. I put a knife under my pillow because he had told me ahead of time he's mentally unstable and he takes a lot of medication. So this is a guy's a total stranger to me. So he lives in my tiny apartment in Pasadena. And the first night he's there, he's just like, he gets to my house, he just opens his school bag and dumps like 80 high 8 tapes out on my floor. And he's like, this is the 5 years I lived on the methadone mile. And then he just zonks out on, he's like, I'm on Suboxone. He just keeps zonking out. And he keeps falling asleep.
No, I know what Suboxone is.
You know what I mean? And he keeps falling asleep with cigarettes in his mouth, and they're just hitting my carpet. And I'm watching like my security deposit just go up in flames. Like he just put a cigarette in his mouth, and it would just fall on the ground, burn all the carpet out. It's really crazy. But me and the other guy who wanted to edit it with me, we're like going through his high 8 tapes, like putting one in after another. Like we put one, and he's like pulling his tooth out with like on his own, and like we put another one in, and like there's just like a street brawl. It was like crazy. Like every tape was like a jewel. There's just him and his friends are shooting up, and I'm like, this is crazy, bro. Like I can't believe we're gonna cut this. So we threw the trailer up though before we started working on it to get like people like excited again, and we thought this is gonna take like a year to make, so let's get people hyped. So we threw the trailer up that he had put out that no one watched, and that shit went crazy on Reddit. It was like, again, it was like 10,000 upvotes, and we're like, whoa. It was like, 25,000 views. We're like, this is pretty crazy. And then what followed was like 2-year disastrous production of putting this 80 hours of footage he made into something watchable. Like he got like arrested at one, he was on bail for fighting a cop when he was living with me, so that was an issue. He got stabbed in the face on public transportation. The first editor ended up ODing while he was working on it, so then he quit.
Jeez, what
He had to bring another guy in. Yeah, it was a really like a nightmare to make. Then like we had a cut, and we ended up at the house of the guy that made Winter on Fire, the Ukraine propaganda film from Netflix. But we were just like looking for anyone at that time to like, check it out. And he was interested. Then he didn't like it because it didn't offer any answers. And we got in a big fight with him at his house and like arguing with him. And then like, it was just like one disaster after another. And then one editor who was like the youngest guy in Right Brain was like, yo, can I take a shot at it? Because we were about to give up. And he was like, I was like, yeah, sure. You want to go through all this footage? I gave him the high 8 tapes. And he found a tape we hadn't found, which was footage of Stephen in high school. That was really crucial to set up who this guy was before he becomes the guy shooting up under a bridge at the end. He's this like baby-faced, excited filmmaker who didn't take a lot of drugs, is super naive. This high school reel of tape just set the whole movie off. It's like, this is who the guy was at first. And like, this is this innocent guy that can be our entryway for the audience and show how it can happen to anybody. And so we made this movie, we put it out, it got into some festivals, we got an agent out of it, but the agent couldn't figure out how to market us. But that film is really like what set it off. That's really what set Right Brain off. So Death to America didn't come till later. That was the one that got some people behind us for sure. We did screenings all up and down the US. We went to Boston, we went to the shipyards in Seattle and screened it for homeless people and drug addicts. We went to a couple different festivals. We got invited to Denver, which is like 30-year plus festival. It had, we played the same slot as Honey Boy did on the opening Friday night. So of course everyone went to Honey Boy, but yeah, I mean, that was that project was a big deal. I'm super proud of it. The whole score is street performers and Steven playing the piano in an abandoned church on heroin when he's homeless. It's raw. The movie's definitely raw.
I gotta check that out. That sounds awesome. Yeah, I saw the trailer and I was like, "Whoa, what the fuck is this?"
Yeah, that was the first one for sure. That's what we count as our first movie, right? Revolution Televised was like our that was like training. You know what I mean?
An experiment.
Exactly.
So, we were talking about your process once, and you told me that film school doesn't teach people certain things. And what do you say that film school does just not teach people that you learned yourself?
I wouldn't recommend this process for anybody, but me and Mark have become really comfortable with a style that's the opposite. When you're in film school, you're taught like plan everything ahead of time, and then if you want it to be great, it'll be good. If you want it to be good, it'll be fine. If you plan everything, because things are always going to go wrong, and like you make a shot list. I agree, prep's important, but only prep as far as making sure that the people are going to be on location at the right time. But we don't make shot lists at all, and I don't think that I'm not sure if I agree that filmmakers should be taught this in film school or not, but I think that this idea of like, that this is like your world you're creating is not something I philosophically agree with, which I used to, is like, film is like your world. It's like you're inviting people into this world. It's like a mix of your feelings and your thoughts and your motifs, and like it's a reflection of the real world. I think that maybe is how film was at a time, and maybe it was important at that time. And that's sort of like where authorship comes in. But I think now there's nothing you can come up with that's going to be more powerful or interesting than what's happening in the world right now. If you say so, I disagree. If you think you have something more interesting than what's going on in Gaza or what's going on with the draconian ICE abductions we're seeing, or mass incarceration. And I'm not saying that like you need to make a documentary about it necessarily. Sometimes fiction's more powerful than reality, but I think that there's absolutely no push in film school to go out with a camera and just capture the world around you. That is not what they're teaching, because they don't want you to capture that, because the people who are destroying the lives around you are funding the film schools or funding where they're going to send you. Film school is now a pipeline to become a pusher for propaganda and to become another minion for the long arm of the imperialist empire. I went to a fascist film school, and immigrants are given a situation where if they don't get a job within like a few months of getting out of school, then they get sent home. So that forces them to become a foot soldier for the empire.
So so you ascribe to the theory or reality that I believe it's reality. Some people believe it's the theory that Hollywood is a wing of the government to a degree. It probably began to wing.
Yeah, they're the PR marketing campaign to the empire is what I believe. I think that indie films are shell companies owned by most of these corporations to give the guys like a Bernie Sanders that they're opposition to,
Yeah.
but they're just run by the same people and they're never going to cross them. That's why you don't see these indie companies making films that are anti-Zionist or anybody you see in any position of power right now, especially in auteur. They're only there because they are not powerful, because they are not going to challenge anyone. That's why they're in the spot they're in. Just like any politician you see, like this Zohan Mona, whatever, I don't know his name, the guy from New York. He's only where he is because he's not going to cause any trouble. He wouldn't even be there if he was really going to be opposition. There's a fail-safe in place at every turn to make sure that the people that are going to really cause trouble don't make it. He wouldn't even be in that spot right now. And you can say that about Ryan Coogler, right? When he made Fruitvale Station, they were like, this guy's powerful. He's got a platform. We got to get him off the shelf. They hire him. They come work for Disney. Here's $1 million. And we're going to neuter you right now. And you're never going to fucking bring any of that shit up ever again. You can make your little movies like Black Panther, but you can't go too far or we're going to take away your house and all that other stuff. I mean, and that's why my friends are really split on that movie Sinners. It's like, yeah, but
I know people that hate it and I know people that love it.
I know, and I tap in with a lot of my black filmmaker friends because not that I think their opinion only matters, but I'm curious what they think about this guy who's kind of like saying like, oh, I'm doing what I want and telling my stories on my terms and addressing all the stuff. And a lot of my one friend wrote an essay on how he's just controlled opposition basically. But the thing they don't teach in film school is an appreciation for film as a weapon. It's not taught as a weapon. It should be. And films like Battle of Chile, films like Hour of the Furnace, those should all be required viewing. Okay. Films like Death to the Invaders from Cuba, those should all be required viewing. Harlan County should be required viewing, but you don't watch any of that shit in film school anymore. You don't. You learn about how Crash was a good movie and crap like that. I used to argue with my teachers, and they thought I was. My one female teacher was thought I was a misogynist. I said, I'm not a misogynist for arguing with you. It's just I can't believe you're telling us to watch Crash. It is literally utterly liberal propaganda that fronts like it's anti-racist, and it's just utter nonsense. And you're teaching filmmakers to watch that. I mean, Tarantino, I mean, all these people, I mean, to be like, he's like the most conservative fascist. I mean, Tarantino's a complete fascist, dude. Look at the kind of work he does. I
do like his movies, but he is annoying. Like he is so annoying, like on interviews. And then he also, there's like this meme where it's like a picture of him with like a bunch of DVDs in his hand looking like they're falling out. And it's like, that's going to be him when Tel Aviv gets bombed again, and he's running out of his apartment with his 70s DVDs or something. That's just crazy.
He probably fits in great in Israel. I remember this quote he had. They all love violence, brutality. They really do. And that's why they get so gleefully on TikTok, like showing off. He had a quote about Kubrick that I think really tells you everything you need to know about the guy. Is he said, Kubrick's a liar. You know, he's never had any communication with Kubrick. And I have my own issues with Kubrick, but he's saying, Kubrick's a liar. If he's saying that he didn't get off in the first 20 minutes of A Clockwork Orange, he claims it's like anti-violence. No, that he, basically saying like his dick was hard making that. Like, no, maybe
fuck out of here. No, he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about.
Yeah, like, dude, it was hard watching those rape scenes, but I really don't think that anyone else felt that way. Not anybody normal. It's bizarre. It's even more creepy because the Clockwork Orange is a book based on the writings of a guy, Anthony Burgess, whose wife also was raped but they were by American. His wife was raped by American GIs when he was stuck on a base, and so like it's kind of eerie to even like say that when the film has like some real amplifications too, and it's like you're saying that his dick was hard. It's bizarre. It says a lot about him.
What's your problems? I'm a big Kubrick fan because I love just the way his films are. I don't even want to fucking explain why I like Kubrick. Everybody fucking likes Kubrick.
I do like his stuff. I do like it. I would say, I think that with Kubrick, I love a lot of his work. I really like Full Metal Jacket. I didn't used to appreciate the second half of it. It's like there's always like this myth like the second half's weak. I don't think that's
underappreciated. The second half is very underappreciated.
Oh my gosh, the scene where they're singing, it's not even like a notable scene in the movie, but it was really badass and I think really shocking, but didn't get a lot of attention, is them singing the Disney Mickey Mouse song.
I see. Okay,
that's a really powerful. I mean, I think in some ways he's kind of using coded language to call Disney a fascist entity and then say that, basically there's this quote by John Pilger that well, it wasn't John Pilger's quote, but it's in one of his documentaries that like they used to tell soldiers that like you put a Coca-Cola in the hand of a soldier to remind him what he's fighting for. And he also would say, if you went far enough out where they don't have Coca-Cola, then you know that you've gone to like a sort of a savage land that sort of needs to be domesticated. That was like the kind of lines that like the Coca-Cola Corporation would say. And I think that it ties to the idea of Disney too, of like they're a long part of the imperialism as well. And so I think that the idea of corporate America's tie to foreign policy is made really clear in that scene in Full Metal Jacket, which I like. My issue with Kubrick comes down to not only how I felt that he treated cast and crew, he had sort of a godlike complex, but that he was more focused, in my opinion, on having perfect angles than he was about making what I thought could have been stronger points about the world around him, or even opening more doors as far as asking questions about the world around him. And I think it falls into that sort of auteurship where it's like, I'm going to spend 80 takes taking this thing that's like, to me, it's insignificant. 80 takes of Shelley Duvall arguing with Jack Nicholson for what? Why? Like to me, like
yeah, because you reject the auteur theory, or you just hate the fucking term, and we talked about that and shit. And I think that's not. I think it's either because he was more focused on how it looked, which I'm fine with. I'm a big fan of how it looked, but I think also it's his like kind of apolitical view of the world because he just hated everybody. Like he hated Hollywood. He hated everybody like with a fucking passion. Like his wife was like, be like, I hate like Hollywood. Everybody in power sucks. They don't go near power. That's one of his wife's quotes is "Don't go near power" or something.
Dude, honestly,
but
though,
yeah,
Eyes Wide Shut too. That was pretty bold. I think he's definitely saying some stuff there about power and power dynamics in not just in Hollywood, but in the Epsteins of the world and stuff like that. So I mean, I do think that he had a lot of. I didn't mean to cut you up, but I do think he's better than a lot of them. You're right about that. Him and his wife, like they were not a part of the machine in that way. I agree with that.
Yeah, and I think it's just because of his ability. But yeah, I mean, they're definitely like when I see directors kind of talk like I want to do fucking 50 takes, or it's like shut the fuck up, you fucking loser. Like just shut up, just make it good, But so why do you reject the auteur term? I mean, that's one thing. And I do think that personally, I'm just okay with it existing, like auteurs existing, because it makes for good fucking movies, which is whatever. But I'm very curious as to why you reject it.
Yeah, so I think there was a time where auteurs were necessary. I think that the 70s and 80s, when Hollywood was sort of fully putting out, in my opinion, like a lot of nothingness, a lot of slop, a lot of like, things that were, but in the 1970s, when the new wave movement started to take off in America and places like that, I think that auteurship was a great way to break the stranglehold of the Hollywood system, which we were only seeing the world through the terms of. That was the only viewpoint we were really getting, was from a very strong studio presence. So I think auteurship did put it back in the hands of everyday people on the street, showing their vision of the world. You had the Shirley Clarks, you had the, even the early Scorsese stuff, the Coppola's early stuff. But I think that now we've gotten to a point in the world where we've become a lot more self-conscious. Like if you follow like the writings of like Hegel and his belief that humans' entire existence is purpose. Hegel being if anyone doesn't know who that is a German idealist philosopher who came before Marx, but was sort of considered like the father of like Marx and a lot of those guys. But Marx added a political, or I'd say like a social working class spin to what Hegel was saying, stuff much more universally. He wasn't talking about unions, but one of his beliefs is that all of human existence, that we are sort of like as cavemen, if you will, we were infants, and that you can scale anything up or down as an equivalent, meaning like you could take the human lifespan and make it bigger and say it's the human lifespan of all of humanity, but it would still be the same proportions, right? So it'd still be like the infant, the teenager, but it could be all of humanity as a race, as an existence, civilization. The reason I bring that up is Hegel believes that when we were cavemen, we were infants, and as we grow up, just like a child, we learn about the world around us. So then civilizations fell, and they learned more and more about the world. We become more and more self-conscious of the world we exist in. So we believe. So we know more now than they did during the Dark Ages, right? And that's why we excuse some of that behavior. And he believes that all of that we don't know and understand about our existence is sort of the unknown, which he kind of calls God. And he believed that humans' true existence is to eventually learn more and more from their mistakes and eventually merge with all that is unknown, which would be a dialectic and create a full picture as we as humans become fully self-conscious beings. I think that the world we live in now, we know so much more than they even did in the 70s and 80s. And I think that if you're following what's happening in the world right now, the camera is a weapon. Maybe there was a time where it could be used to in a powerful way to create your own world, or like Godard would do these sort of kitschy worlds that make up a lot of his ideas, but his ideas are relevant to the world around us. And you're seeing it through his viewpoint. I think right now, with how dire things are, there's absolutely just no room for it. If you have the privilege of having this weapon in your hand, as you could say, like with Cuba with the revolution, if Castro is giving you one of the machine guns, you really need to be at this point right now using it as a weapon. And that could be narrative film too. That's not so you have to go out and just shoot street stuff, because that's also kind of saturated, the on the street stuff from like vlogging and stuff.
Fucking Johnny Kensington. And...
yeah, but you need to really disrupt shit right now. Like, you need to really be disrupting stuff. And there's no way there's anything that happened personally to you in your life that could be more important right now than my friends getting fucking blown up in Palestine, or my friends getting abducted on the streets for ICE, or my friends overdosing on heroin. Not just my friends, but this is everybody I know, their friends overdosing on heroin or committing suicide. I think that if you can't tie that authorship, like, you can have your view and your vision, but I think your authorship now should just be the point of view or angle at which you're shooting the things I'm talking about. Or if you have a personal story in your life, if it doesn't relate to anything larger than yourself, then to me, it falls into like, that's like the physical manifestation of capitalism, in my opinion. It's the individual, it's me. Where I think that the communist, which we don't even like to say we identify with, but even the more communal idea is that this isn't just me. This is not just about me. This is about all of us. And that's the only reason I would really want to watch a movie right now, unless I'm just zonking out. Like, sure, I throw things on like Oz or things to just kind of like turn my brain off while I work. I'm saying true cinema right now, there's just too much going on that you could possibly be thinking about anything in your, when you were 12 years old and your mama banned you. That's fine if you want to make a movie about that, but can't you tie that to something larger than yourself? Or is it so personal? And this comes up to a music video we haven't dropped yet. We shot a music video with the camera from The Whale that they used on The Whale. I can't say how that all came about, but we shot our first rap video ever, and it ended up being with these DC rappers with that new OG Sony camera. And when we came to him, which has never happened before, we're like, we want to make a music video for your song. And we never do that. We usually turn this shit down. We're like,
which rapper?
His name's Alias Twinsky. He's friends with the Palestine News Network. We heard a song at the live show, and we're like, yeah, this is hard. And I was like, what if the Houthis are flying in the beginning? And like, we just had this whole fucking vision, like the Houthis are hang gliding in the beginning, and then like smash cuts and revolutionary imagery with him. So I met with him about it. I was like, I want to shoot your music video. And my friend was like, I'll do a discount if I just want to try out this new The Whale camera I got. Like, I want to do something with it. I was like, yo, let's do a rap video. But I was talking to him. He's like, well, that's a really personal story. That song's about X, Y, and Z. It happened with my cousin and this and this. Like, no offense, who cares? Okay. It sounds like, who gives a shit? That is cool that that's the story. I'm interested in that. But what I'm saying is that should be your story, but music is ephemeral. Like, it should relate to people are you saying you can only get into that song if that happened to you? But no, it wasn't a negative. Yeah. It's where our creative minds molded, but this was an example of that. It's like, I understand that in a way you're the auteur of this song. This is what your vision is. But I think that is fucking dope. And he had a whole idea. He wanted to do this whole narrative video, kind of the old Hype Williams style. It was going to be like narrative and like follow the story. I said, I think we should show that like that is your story, but it relates to something even higher than that, even higher than you. And when you made it, you didn't even know that it related to something higher than you. And and it worked. We mashed the two ideas together. He was iffy about it at first, but we took a hard line. We're like, well, if you want to do this other video, you don't need us to do that. Like, we've never done narrative videos like that. Like, we've never even done a rap video. This is something we know we can do. This is something we don't know. And that's the only project I signed on to now is like, I know I could actually do it this way. It was same with the Wonderlands. Like, I know I can do this, but like, you start doing this other stuff, I don't know. And I don't like doing unknowns. So this was the sort of the idea I put into practice. I was like, the authorship of it is out the door. Like, I want to relate this to something much bigger. And we perfectly mixed his idea and mine. It melded right in the middle. And I think that is the idea, is like, you can make personal stories. He never had to abandon his personal idea of where it came from. When he's rapping that, when we were filming it, that's where he's coming from on it, is what happened with his cousin, this betrayal. But that betrayal exists beyond that, is us being betrayed by the middle class, that being betrayed, or the working class being betrayed by the empire. It could be the betrayal of your neighbors and how they don't care about what's happening in Gaza, or it could be the betrayal of, there's a lot of betrayal we're all feeling right now. And that's all I was trying to communicate to him. And I think it hasn't come out yet, but it's coming out soon. I think it's going to really communicate that you can still do this thing you want to do where you express yourself, but I think you got to be part of the resistance at this point, or you're part of the other side. There's really no like middle ground anymore, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I know what you mean. Like, there's certain films that just, try to, they're so self-indulgent, and especially with the filmmaker Kevin Smith. I mean, I feel like every movie of his has to go back into his personal history about how he worked at a quick stop. Like, the one of his newest films I heard like was just a completely different film about, being a teenager and going to the movies. But at the end of the film, it shows that teenager applying for a job at Quick Stop. And it's like, why are we doing this? Like, why does it have to be, or I mean, even Wes Anderson, I think some of his films are good, but I feel like just the same, just because it's symmetrical doesn't mean it's like a good fucking movie,
I agree.
or
I love Rushmore.
like,
I think Rushmore is a really good film. I think there's a
big
lot of
fan of
stuff.
that. Big
Yeah.
fan of that one. I think his first three, best of his work, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that Rushmore does have some really strong themes in it, because if you remember, Max is actually like kind of a poor kid who's like, that's one of the reasons he tries so hard. He's like, his dad works at a barbershop. He like kind of pretends to be, he wants to be embraced by this. I think that, plus early Brian Cox, I mean, not early role by him, but like early notable role. He's great in that as the principal. I mean,
He's so fucking funny with his little pipe that he's smoking and shit. Like, oh man. And I didn't even know it was the dude from Killing of a Chinese Bookie, that plays Max's dad, the bad guy from Killing of a Chinese Bookie. I was like, what the fuck? Because I didn't really get into Cassavetes until after that. Because Wes Anderson's such an entry level film bro type of.
Yeah, I grew up during all that. I grew up to when Tarantino was rising. I remember going to see Kill Bill in the theater on like a school night. That's how old I am. But I think that I want to say this too. Like, I think that with authorship, I more so think like it's more of the idea. I think is what's developed is like, I am the filmmaker. I am sort of the voice. I am the word of God. Like, if I say it, this is how it's going to be in my world. I think that some of those, and like make sure. And I used to do this, to have like a film by. I think putting stuff like that in. I think even in Death to America, I had that. It's kind of before I came to this idea of the authorship. It's like, there's so many things about making a movie that I think that the filmmaker is as equal as anyone else. Like, it takes so many people to make a movie, the musician, the crew member. I'd say the music in Death to America is as crucial as Rome in some ways. I mean, that score really adds so much. When we threw that down under the footage, I remember even the guy who made the movie being like, whoa. Like, when he's saying like, the only thing we should be voting on is who gets the guillotine next. And like, there's like a kid there and like the music's real haunting. It's like, that brought that whole thing to life. Even Rome would admit that. And I think like, to have a film by just kind of negates all those people that really made it possible, that if one of them didn't exist, then the film wouldn't exist.
I think when it comes to like documentaries, I think this applies, but I think for some narratives, like sometimes, but I think sometimes like the person that makes it causes it to be what it is. But, yes, I do believe every crew member should kind of like be held as an equal weight, especially, and that's why I don't like the Oscars. I feel like everybody's kind of waving their dick around in the Oscars, and it's like with Sean Baker. Like, I mean, I don't think he deserved all those awards. I think he deserved it, but I feel like there is, other aspects of that. But I feel like there is like an ego that directors have that's problematic.
Yeah, that A24 shit's gotten pretty trash, and that's just all tours running wild with budgets, and that shit's trash. Like, they haven't made a good movie in what, 3 years. And let's be real, Uncut Gems wasn't really as, I don't think Uncut Gems is nearly as good as people act. Like, it was a great marketing campaign, and like Adam Sandler was definitely playing above his belt, but like, what's the metric there? Him having dentures in and not playing Happy Gilmore. I mean, I love Adam Sandler, but at the end of the day, that was a good performance for Adam Sandler. But like,
yeah. Well, I mean, I think the Safdie Bros have just as good work earlier,
Oh my
and
gosh,
I could argue like,
Right.
and I think that Good Time is maybe better than Uncut Gems, and the Daddy Long Legs too. That
Daddy
one
Long
is phenomenal.
awesome. Dude, their early shit looks like Cassavetes. Heaven Knows What is phenomenal. That's, to me,
Heaven Knows What is perfect. Yeah,
never gotten rid of that DP. That was a huge mistake. I think the guy who shot Uncut Gems
from Delaware, actually.
Dude, he was amazing. He brought a lot to their movies, that look and feel. It didn't feel like that in Uncut Gems. They got the guy who did like City of Z or whatever. Huge mistake, dude. That took a lot of the rawness out of it. That guy's style is amazing. I mean, that shit really looks like some early Cassavetes stuff, dude.
I think it's like his name's like Sean Price Williams, I think.
Amazing. when I saw he wasn't shooting it, I was already nervous. I think that movie would have been a lot better if it was made closer to when they actually wrote the script, which was I think 2014, and if it actually had Jonah Hill in it. I think Jonah Hill would have been better. I think Jonah Hill, if you look at him in Wolf of Wall Street, I think there's the excitement of like, oh my God, Adam Sandler doing a different role. But as far as a straight performance, I think Jonah Hill would have been better. I think there's a lot of things about that movie. Yeah. Dude, there's a lot of things in that movie that are really mid, I think. Aaron, whatever girl, she sucks, trash, not a good actress at all, by no means. Not even, in my opinion, like getting the role just for her looks. I just didn't buy her.
Ooh, Julia Fox?
I didn't think she was good at all. I think she was trash. They should have. They wanted the girl from Uncut Gems, but they had fallen out with her, or from Heaven Knows What. But they'd fallen out with her, and you can actually find old Facebook posts of her calling out the Sad Feast for the fact that they exploited her. They wanted to put her book out and make her sign this shitty deal that Heaven Knows What was based on, and kind of just became kind of scummy. And I actually think that might be true because when that guy died from Heaven Knows What and Good Time, Buddy Duress, they didn't say anything about him, really. This guy, they sort of chewed up and spit out when they were done with him. And I think that they're a metaphor of like the auteur mentality, though. It's like these people were important to him for that moment, but like they're their little troop, right? They really were happy to say, like, look at these real world people we surround ourselves with. And then Buddy Duress died, and they didn't even fucking make any statement on it. No Alera picture statement whatsoever on this.
They did, but it was like very minimal. And I am very close with the person that was working on his last movie, Buddy Duress's last movie. And it's going in theaters right now. It's called Mass State Lottery.
I saw the trailer for that, I think.
I'm working on a lot of projects with him, and he's been on my show. And they told me, he was the first person that announced it, and they told me that, well, not even they told me, but if you go on podcasts with it, because the dude has a movie review podcast that is making that movie, has made that movie's finished. But anyways, and on the podcast when he's talking about Buddy, they did a whole episode called "Remembering Buddy Duress," and basically, he got arrested because he was always in and out of jail. And then basically, agents dropped him. Everybody dropped him because he went to jail. And then he came out, started to do movies again. But he also would have been in Uncut Gems. And I think Uncut Gems would have been way better with him in it. He wasn't going to be the main role, but I think he would have been great in Uncut Gems. But I think like the industry really abandoned him. And I guess, he had some addiction. He definitely had addiction problems. But I think that the industry kind of like abandoned him. I think he should have been brought up more. But I think, sometimes it is some people's,
But that's the problem is it's like his addictions are a lot of the reasons why he was so fucking raw and why so many people like me, like as someone who's a former actor, like a lot of people connected with him on screen is because of that nature of him. Like he doesn't look like an actor.
Yeah, no, definitely.
He's been there like we have. That's what made him he's such an exhilarating and even sometimes even in good times, like he's kind of the crazy character, but in a way I felt more connected to him than I did to Robert Pattinson. Like I know people who are like him, kind of, you always had people, I'm sure being in Philly and being in Delaware, you met people like him in that Northeast fucking, you're like, how's this guy exist? But then I connected with this character. And for me, it's like, those are all things that you liked about him when you needed him. But then when he was really going through it, it's like you've kind of lost sight of the fact. And it's like this when we were working on Nightcrawlers. Like Stephen was getting in a lot of trouble. He got arrested a few times. He would get drunk when we're supposed to go do voiceover work. And, he was a mess a lot of times working. It was like pulling him over the finish line was very difficult. And I'm sure it's because the movie was traumatic, making Nightcrawlers, re-looking at all this footage of himself. But you had to remind yourself, but that's why Nightcrawlers is so fucking good and so raw, is because he is that guy. And so, like, you can't just throw him away now because he's that guy. It's like, yeah, that's why the movie is what it is. That's why it's so hardcore. That's why right now, Stephen hasn't made a movie in like 4 years, and he's still like a member of Riper. He's still one of the three. And on the paperwork, he's still third part owner, even though he doesn't really do anything because he's sort of a figurehead. He put his life on the line to make that first movie that opened up doors for us. And for that reason alone, like, what are you going to try to, you want to tame him now?
You can't cast him aside, it's not an option, and
yeah, that's why Buddy Duress is so fucking good, is he's all those things. And like, if you're not going to take those parts of him too, I think that's weak, it's parasitic, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely the industry produces like ego, like maniacs. I'm not saying Safdie Bros are egomaniacs, but I feel like there's always like, in order to succeed, somebody at that level, somebody must be exploited to a degree, kind of up there. And we're not getting into the Marx's theory of whatever the fuck, but so in general, to be that successful, somebody has to with one's triumph must one suffer. Some quote
No,
like
I'll
that.
say this, and me and Mark don't call ourselves Marxists either, so I can say that. There's a lot of people when we go by, like, you're a leftist podcast, you're a Marxist podcast. We're not any of that stuff, and we, like I said, we're Hegelian if you're gonna give it a label, which I like, but Marxist, no, I don't like it, because like, what does it mean anymore? You meet the biggest fucking doofus DSA flunky who's at like a Not My President rally, and they'll tell you they're a fucking Marxist. They'll tell you the like 3 or 4 different. They always complain about gender, but then like, well, I'm not saying that, but I'm saying you meet Marxists who I give you more identifications than anyone I've ever heard talk about gender. Like, I'm a sectarian, leftist, Marxist, Trotskyite. I'm like, I don't care. Like, I really don't care. Who do
Yeah, you're out of the sort of spectrum of political shit, and you got your own thing.
Yeah.
Going
well, then
on.
you keep asking this. I just say, like, but who have you fed lately? Like, who have you sent? Have you sent money to anyone in Gaza, really? Because I know people who are like, they don't even have an identification, and they just sent like a meal to someone in Gaza. Like, I don't fucking care. Right? Like, how many Marx? I knew a lot of kids in LA that read a lot of Marx. They didn't do shit. They do nothing for anyone except read Marx. And like, if you're not putting it into practice, it's useless to me. It's great if you are a Marxist, but like, if you're not putting that in your everyday life, I don't give a fuck. I don't care how many chapters you read of Marx or Stalin.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's kind of how I feel with like the libertarian shit. I feel like a lot of people kind of think that like libertarians, like that Trump or Republicans will solve their problems, and it's like, no, they're fucking just as bad as Democrats in my view. Like, they're fucking terrible. I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and lie to you and tell you I don't lean right, but it's so terrible the way things are going right now that it's like, it's just making me radical, and it's making people on the right be even more radical the way things are. I think like I noticed a lot more younger people that are like right leaning are just going even more right because of like what that administration is just it shows that like I think this is some quote I fucking listened on a podcast. This is like, the left knows how to orchestrate from the ground up, and that the right doesn't do that. So the only alternative they had is to form a kind of populist cult in order to come back up, because they were the system at the time, and that after that cult around Trump falls, it's kind of over for the right. Unless Vance is like he's a tool of Thiel, so I don't know. I just think everything on either side is kind of fucked, and it's a up down thing. It's not a left right thing, especially when it comes to Zionism. Especially,
I agree. I would organize with anybody against Gaza, against what's happening in Gaza. Anyone. I don't care if I deplore, and that's a big issue with the left, and we've gotten criticisms and DMs like, how could you say you'd work with a fascist? It's like, I would work with, my friends are literally being blown up, and my friends' family members are being blown up. I will literally, like, this is a genocide. I will literally organize, like back in the day, factions worked together sometimes that didn't like each other. I will work with anybody to stop this, for this common cause that I think is bigger than myself and my personal feelings about any of these people. Same with nuclear war. I would go out there with anybody, because at the end of the day, you're not going to have trans rights if the world ends. You're not going to have, at the end of the day, like, Gaza, people don't recognize, if they can do this to Gaza, if they can get away with a genocide on television in front of everybody and no one lifts a finger, you don't think that sends any messages to your own leaders of the kind of things they can get away with on camera and no one's going to lift a finger?
Yeah, I mean, it's so obvious. I mean, like with the shooting at the aid, people getting aid, and it's disgusting. I mean, I kind of see that even with the immigration stuff. I mean, even though I really don't consider myself to be like pro illegal immigration, I think that the way they're doing it is sloppy and terrible, and as you said, draconian. And it's like, people on the right, or people that support the deportations, kind of don't understand, if they can do it to an illegal immigrant, then they can do it to a citizen. And they are kind of doing it to citizens if you really look into it. But anyways, it's definitely right. Like, people kind of in America and other kind of first world countries, like, think that these wars are above them. It could never happen here. And it's like, Zionism has caused, the USS Liberty to go down. I mean, and caused, an extermination of a whole entire group of people. And the Greater Israel Project is currently being realized. They implanted a leader in Syria, and now they're bombing that leader that they planted in Syria.
I know, yeah. Israel's the only country that could cause a coup and then within months be bombing the person that they brought in to do the. I mean, they didn't even wait to start fucking bombing the puppet they. It's like, dude, you even bomb your own puppets. That's fucking crazy. Like, the thing is though, my issue with immigration when I'm talking to some of the people on the right is they just never acknowledge that, like. They never acknowledge why there is mass immigration, and it's because we destroyed those countries. We destroyed Mexico with the NAFTA trade deals. So you destroy a country, and then you're surprised those people want to come here. How many farms were wiped out when we did the NAFTA trade deal with Canada and Mexico? That was completely unfair to Mexico and completely like mischievously and purposely done to destroy their economy. Now, good business is when you make a deal with someone where both of you benefit and you have a long partnership. U.S. doesn't do good business. They do, quick business, and their quick business was let's make a shitty trade deal for Mexico. It's going to fuck them over. Of course, those people came here. People went from owning a farm in Mexico to needing to desperately move here to work on a farm for shitty wages in the U.S. because we destroyed their avocado business. So it's the same with the wars. You destroy a country overseas, and you're surprised they want to come.
Libya, fucking Somalia, Ethiopia.
Surprised people are coming here. Those are the issues that need to be fixed if you want to fix immigration. You want mass refugees to stop coming here. Stop destroying the fucking world. Stop arming the fucking world.
Yeah, because I mean, it's flip flops too. Like, we'll arm this group, they'll go against this group, and then that group that we armed will go against us, and then we arm the group that they previously fought against, and just flip flops for generation after generation, ever since the CIA was formed, and it's all and a lot of it's instigated by Israel and stuff, and that's a whole other rabbit hole, But yeah, I totally agree with that.
I just recently started reading about it because I didn't shy away from it because I didn't believe it, but I was like, there's already enough Zionist stuff out there. I don't really need to read too much into this. But the 5 dancing Israelis in 9/11, I mean, that's not a conspiracy. There were 5.
It's not even a joke. It's not even a fucking joke. It's not even a joke. It's not even.
Just these Zionists downplayed. It's like, you don't think it's suspicious that 5 people were dancing on a roof filming the Twin Towers going off, got arrested in a moving van that was connected to a company, connected to a guy who's from Israel. They raid the offices. There's nothing involved with moving, lots of hard drives. 2 guys, people are failing polygraph tests. People are refusing to take polygraph tests. And then the guy who runs the business disappears to Israel. Like, they at the very least knew about it. At the very least.
Yeah. And then there's the footage of the one girl. And when 9/11 happens, somebody's interviewing her and she's like, what are you thinking? And then she's smiling the whole interview. And she's like, I'm Israeli. Now America knows with what we deal with on a daily basis. And it's like, go fuck yourself. Get the fuck out. Go fuck yourself. And it's really disgusting. It's really disgusting. And the fact that you're not even allowed to talk about it. I mean, everybody's like, oh, Bush probably did it. It's like, yeah. Bush and them did it, or it was just them. Who fucking knows? You know what I mean? And it's not like they're above doing that. It's not like they're above running a blackmail operation. I mean, they've done that before. And I believe it was Syria. They had a dude move there, and he would like throw elaborate parties and get blackmail. Like, there's so many examples. And then the King David Hotel, they dressed up like Arabs and bomb that hotel. Like, they've done false flags before. Dude, their government has done that before many times.
Dude, they caught that guy in Libya during the overthrow of Gaddafi. They caught this guy who was in ISIS, and then he was a fake beard, and he was a fucking member of Israeli intelligence. He was a Mossad. It wasn't even Arab.
In Egypt too, because one thing that Daryl Cooper talks about is like, it's very easy for them to recruit somebody, because even if you are, Jewish from another country, you can just approach somebody like, do you have loyalty to this country you live in? Or do you have do you have loyalty to the country that you originate from? Not really, but so there's that. And I think that's it's entirely possible. God damn it, I pulled out the Joe Rogan little quirk, but because he's always like, it's entirely possible. But it's entirely possible that they could recruit that amount of people because they have this sort of like loyalty kind of attitude that not other countries have. Like you can't have that kind of lobbying thing. Like if Britain wanted to do that also, because there's the whole other thing, the foreign registration stuff, but they are an exception. They're a special case when it comes to like whatever country they live in and then what country Israel, like they can be both for some reason, when really it's like as a citizen of each country, you should just pick one fucking country, and it's a whole rabbit hole.
They're so entrenched in the world, Mossad, and so powerful in a sense that they've like, there's people that are like married to Mossad in like Arab countries and don't even know it. Yeah, they'll marry into people at weddings and stuff and under a completely fake identity. I mean, these people.
Cash Patel's girlfriend's was in the IDF. So
yeah,
it's like, it worked at for PragerU. It's like the fuck. Oh, so you're in charge of releasing the Epstein file, and you're dating somebody in the IDF.
Yes.
Get the fuck out of here.
No, you had mentioned too that there were some things that you disagreed about. I'm interested in that stuff, and not in a negative way. I'm interested in some of the stuff, some of our beliefs that with right brain that maybe don't speak to you as much. What were you thinking?
I'm just overall patriotic about America and the Constitution, and I'm just not a communist. Like it's just that, you know, like I am very patriotic. I believe in like capitalism. I believe capitalism has led to terrible things in the merging of corporations and the government that are bad. But overall, I just believe that I would not want, if somebody says that they want to take my money to give it to somebody else as in the form of taxes, I just don't like that. I'm just gonna be honest. And you know, I don't want to like argue with you on that because I just know like
no, that's fair. That's fair. I think I was just curious. I think that's fair. I mean, I think that if you see the way your money is being handled now, I can understand having someone having an adverse reaction to wanting to pay taxes and have people take your money away. So I understand.
And I understand that people want that money to be handled differently, and they think that it's possible for the government to handle it better and give it to people. I understand that empathy and I understand that, but you know, I just feel like I haven't seen evidence that the government can handle my fucking money properly.
I think that's absolutely valid. I completely understand that.
But also, I mean, I have my own kind of theory that I just haven't kind of written down, you know, educatedly researched. But I think that like communes can exist in like a kind of free market setting or something. I think that like if people could come together, own a land, and there could be a commune society in like an anarchist world or something. If I don't know. But I think like there's room for communes. There's room for that lifestyle, and not everybody has to be an individualist capitalist like I am. Because you know, personally, I want to live in the woods and the fuck away from people. But I think that there is a world where people can that I don't know. There's a room for both ideologies and but yeah, that's my
yeah. No, and I don't want to hijack it. So yeah, we probably got what, like 30 more. You can ask me any kind of questions too. I don't.
Yeah. So the Jimmy Dore stuff. Let's go for that, and then we'll wrap it up. But Jimmy Dore stand-up show like that. How did that occur, and what jokes or moments made you almost drop the camera and just start laughing your ass off with that one?
The Jimmy Dore project was kind of a nightmare. But I don't blame anybody on his team for that. It just situationally, I guess, it was not something I would ever probably want to do again. But I'll tell you why. Yeah, I guess some of the stuff I haven't really talked about, but I'm okay with getting into some of it. We had a really bad year, the year that the October 7th year. Mark was having some problems, behind the scenes stuff. I was having some problems too. We were both having some problems. My problems were probably linked to more of October 7th. His problems started before October 7th. He was going through some personal stuff in his life. He was living with me for a little while, and he wasn't letting me know how bad it was because he didn't want to let me down for Right Brain. He wanted to let Right Brain down. He knew the mission was bigger than him, so he was kind of suffering in silence, which I respect the hell out of him for that. But I probably should have noticed that. But I was also, you know, dealing with a lot. We're pulling 3-4 days. Sometimes I'm pulling 3-4 days without sleep, which I never thought even the human body could do. And that's no lie. People can testify that. So I didn't really realize what he was going through, and I probably should have. But when our Cuba event was over, it was one of the biggest events we'd ever done. It was a 8-city event. We did virtual and in person on one night. The Cuban embassy showed up, raised $1,000 for Cuba. Plus, it was really a big one. And we just come off Death to America. So we were flying really high. It was the best year we ever had. I mean, we were really starting to blow up. And we had this Halloween event planned. It was supposed to be, and it was going to have the woman from named Lady Izdahar. She's a big communist influencer. And we got her to be the sort of the face of it. And that shit was going to go so hard. People were already getting excited about like the artwork and stuff. But the trailer dropped for that on October 7th. I kid you not. The timing couldn't have been crazier. And it was about an hour after Hamas. But we didn't know that had happened. We were at an event vending, so we didn't even have good internet. So we didn't even know that Hamas or any of that had happened. And we put out this trailer, and it did like 30,000 views. We're like, this is going to be our biggest shit. Then that happened, and everything just changed. I felt like the life go out of me, and I just lost a lot of interest in what I was doing. And that's when we had a little bit of an identity crisis of like, is Right Brain really that important, or are we just another boutique like streaming site? We believe now that we're not, but we had to grapple with how we can actually be effective. And if we can't be effective during something like October 7th, why do we even exist? This is important because for that year, I'm not gonna lie, we phoned it in. I mean, you could see that just our audience's heart wasn't really into it. Obviously, what was going on, and we weren't that into it. And for a period, Mark wasn't really even there, so I was actually running it myself. And like the themes just don't really make sense. The monthly lineups don't really, they're just kind of jumbled. There's like a Muslim cinema month. There's nothing wrong with that, but it doesn't really fit with the next month, which is like a New York month. That's because like we were just kind of making up as we went, because like we had a lot of plans. We were 2 years planned out before October 7th. We threw all of the stuff we worked on out the window. It's just like, we're not doing any of that anymore. We got to figure it out. So we had to rebuild from scratch. So we had a really bad 6 months, and we were telling people not to sign up for the website, because we just didn't feel like they should. And our accountant and our lawyer saying that's a stupid idea. You're like a small business. We were telling people to go donate the money, because we just felt really like gross promoting. I know a lot of businesses were fine with it. We felt really gross promoting like projects that were made pre-October 7th that had nothing to do with Gaza, that just like didn't really feel that relevant anymore, that important anymore. So anyway, this is important because when I told Mark, when you finally get stuff together and you get your head on straight, he was having some problems. I said, come back to Right Brain. But for now, I need you to step away and let me run it. And same would go for him. And I was getting high and stuff, and I was going through a really dark period with Gaza. So I started to meet people from Gaza. I had the guy from Palestine who's never put me in touch with people in Gaza. I was like, I want to meet people in Gaza. So I started getting on the call with them. It got worse. And I was taking drugs to keep the thing afloat. When Mark and I got back together, we're like, we need to really do something big now. We've been off the shelf for a minute. It's time to we're going to run out of money. Like, we need to get this shit going. We're not really helpful to people in Gaza if we're not actually building this thing.
Yeah.
And there's gonna be more Gazas. So that's what Mark said. We should reach out to Jimmy Dore. And I said, we had on our 5-year plan to do a project with Jimmy Dore, but it was on year 5. This was like year 3.5. And he's like, we got to take a big swing. Like, we've been out of the game for a minute. Like, we got to go hard on this. That Halloween event didn't end up popping because the woman who was Muslim and her boyfriend was Jewish, and she didn't want to promote it, and she felt weird promoting it. And I understood that. And so we need a big project. We need to take a big swing. I had a contact with Jimmy's wife. I'd interviewed her on a podcast that we kind of released 2 years before when Right Brain first launched, called Smoke Breaks. They were these 15-minute interviews. Her episode never actually came out, but I had recorded with her. I met her through Ron Placone, who I don't speak to anymore, who was Jimmy's old co-host. So yes. I hadn't talked to Steph and his wife in 4 years, really, before Right Brain launched. And I had pitched her an idea at the time that she shot down really badly and said, don't come to me with an idea again because we're busy unless it's a big one. It was a humbling moment. I thought we were really tight, and I pitched this shitty idea, and she said, don't come to me again unless you got something that's good. Seriously.
Damn.
And I was like, we didn't talk to her for 4 years, and when Mark said we got to take a shot at Jimmy, I called her. I was like, I haven't spoken to you since you told me 4 years ago that not to come to you if I don't have an idea. And I told her, we just pitched it we'll shoot the special, we'll pay Jimmy to do the special, but we don't feel like his last special, we feel like, we need a Bill Hicks level special that's shot, in my opinion, edited really high quality with the brand. I think Right Brain, the energy Right Brain can bring to it, and our team, our talented team. I think your old special is great, but if you watch his first special, the COVID lies are funny. It doesn't spend a lot of attention on the presentation of it. And I felt like it could have been we need a Carlin and Carnegie, a fucking, one of those.
Yeah, big fan of him. I'm a big fan of him. Yeah.
One of those monumental things that really speaks to the moment.
Definitely. Yeah.
And so we went and shot it, and I looked up his schedule, and I said, you're going to be in Jersey. So you're going to be in Philly, actually, was the first spot. And that's where we can shoot it. We're right here. We got the whole team. I'll bring 5 amazing camera guys. We're going to knock this thing out. We made a deal. We agreed to it, and he loved the pitch, and we went for it. We gave him final cut. That was that. We have no regrets on that. It's the only way he was going to do it, dude. There's no way he was going to sign on anything either. We didn't get no paperwork because we were lucky he was even doing it at our level at the price. He said the last special he got 10, 20, 30, whatever grand for. We agreed that he's I told him I have $800 on my bank account right now. And he's
yeah.
And he agreed to do it. So we knew going into it we weren't going to be able to get anything in paperwork, and we knew weren't going to get Final Cut. What we didn't know was working with a big name like that comes with a lot of things, a lot of obstacles, because they have so much more on the line than maybe people may say. We have a lot on the line, but like we can take risks. We don't have any advertisers. We don't give a fuck. We can say glory to Hamas, on which we did recently at an event that was being broadcasted in somebody's restaurant. They were not like political, but they agreed to host it, and we were able to say stuff like that. We're able to do discounts if the Houthis sink an Israeli ship. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's fucking crazy, which we do. Like, Jimmy has a lot more on his, like, he has a lot more to worry about, and I think that that's understandable completely. So what I mean by that is when you step into the box of someone like that who has a lot more on the line in a way, it can lead to some. So I'll take the blame at the first shoot. I'll tell you, man, it's like what they say about football players. Like when we woke up, me and Mark, like even though that shoot should have been so easy compared to the shit we filmed and some of the crazy situations we've been in, like going to Detroit, I didn't feel good about it. Even though like the venue was picked out and everything, and it ended up moving to Jersey because the union rules in Philly are fucking crazy. I'm a total union supporter, but when you're telling me that like I have to have somebody on set from Rock Nation who has like, or Live Nation who has the like creative control, all this shit was like, we're not doing any of that stuff. No fucking way. So we agreed to do it in Jersey.
Yeah, I remember you telling me about that.
Yeah. So we did it in Jersey at a much smaller venue, and we were told by the venue, because we called ahead of time, because when I say that we don't do a lot of prep, we prep everything except the visual look of it. Like we don't prep shot lists, but you know, we watch some stuff. We plan some stuff. Like we think it'd be really cool if we tried this. We generally like the performance was just going to go as was, and we just do a lot of prep on this on the technical side. It's like who's going to be in charge of lighting and stuff at the venue, and where is Jimmy going to stand, and what does the venue look like? All these things we feed to our crew, so our crew is totally ready. It's the thematic stuff that we go in there and don't fully plan, and we just kind of let things unfold. So like when we got there, we were not told that there was circuit problems, that there was like an 18-year-old was running it. I mean, it was a really weird venue that was like historic, but run by like some locals who were not very adept at what was going on. They did not really know how to use, say, an H4, which was shocking to me. So the recording of his performance got fucked. The one that you feed from the mixer of his microphone into our mixer, there was a power surge in the middle of the show that none of us knew about. And since we only had camera guys and we're not really like checking it because we figured an H4 always works, we lost the recording of his voice. And that was a horrifying thing to tell him, that we promised to do this great job and we fucked up the most basic thing, the most basic shit. And part of the reason of that was the person we were with, one of the crew, like these new techie filmmakers you bring in your crew, they want to use all these toys. If we would have used the H4 with 2 batteries in it, like I wanted to do, it would have fucking been fine. But because he wanted to mix, like, you know, hook up the H7 or whatever the fuck it was with all these intricate things, it fucking failed in the middle of it. And it was like, I have to tell Jimmy Dore that we didn't properly record his voice. It was just so mind-boggling. It was so embarrassing. So I had dinner with Jimmy Dore in LA, and he wanted to know how the project was going. And that's when I told him, like, we fucked it. And I said, I would like to shoot, you know, we agreed to get one more chance to shoot it again on my own dime. But I was going to be in China, and he said he was going to be at a Max Blumenthal sponsored, like Gray Zone sponsored comedy show. And I was like, yo, that sounds even better than this. I hated the way the footage looked, honestly. Like Jimmy, like rearranged all our cameras when he got out there. And like, I'm just being honest with the guy. I love his comedy. I do not like his eye for anything related. Like the shots just don't cut when you have 2 cameras that are that close together. You cannot cut those together. Like they're too similar, the shots. Like you don't understand how editing is. You don't think as an editor, and that's not going to work for us. My camera got fucking pissed too. We set all these shots up 3 hours early, and he comes out and he's like, no, this here, this here, this here. I was like, my camera was like, seriously? So for the second one, I was like, okay, I know how to work with him a little bit now. Whatever he says, you know, just agree, but like go back to the shots we kind of think we want to do. And this time I want to have a Bill Hicks style camera that's like from the side. And I told my camera guy, like, I want you to just do anything you want with this camera, because this is going to be my cutaway reaction camera. Like, I'm never going to show this for more than 4 seconds at a time. So just do a bunch of shots. Run this shit the way you feel the entire time. And we have enough safety footage. So, like, I want you to zoom in on Jimmy's face when he pops his eyes and stuff. I would find it come out that would be my nightmare, because we shot it when I was in China. I found I was going to be in China. So I had to remotely direct it from 15,000 miles away. Mark was like kind of in command, but I was kind of like on set, like through Zoom and stuff, or through like on their phones from like, you know, they would call me, FaceTime me, and like show me what was going on. But I was freaking out that I couldn't really have a lot of control over it. Well, Jimmy, like I'm kind of tough about what I can say, because like I don't want to say anything that would like he did right by us, so I don't really want to say anything. Let's just say he didn't like, he was a little drunk and a little loose with his lips. He didn't like his set that time. I like this set so much better. He was calling Cornel West a cocksucker. He was just like giving no fucks, and he just like, in the middle of it, he's like, I don't even know where I'm at in my act
That's
right
good.
now. His first time, he was so rehearsed that it almost was like, why would this be on Right Brain? It's almost like this one is like, this is a Right Brain performance. He's just, and Max opened for him, which was fucking phenomenal. And we agreed to shoot Max as the opener because he's letting us shoot there. That ends up coming back into the story later. So for the next 6 months, we play phone tag with Jimmy on this new performance. And I do the cut, and he just is not, he's just not liking it. He doesn't like it. He doesn't really want to do it. And they're not giving me any real concrete reasons why they don't like it. It's just little things. I feel like I'm being led around, but he has the final cut. So every lineup we keep making, we're like putting the Jimmy special in the lineup and working around it. And then he keeps kind of bailing on it. And we have to keep changing our lineup. So the lineups just don't make any sense anymore. It's like, it's like 1 minute we're in New York, then we're over here. Then we did a comedy month and he's in the trailer, but then it didn't even come out. Like, it's just a mess. Because when we make a Right Brain 5-month lineup called a phase, it's like a tasting menu. It's all kind of planned ahead of time. Of like, this is going to lead into this, is going to lead into this. And for some reason, Jimmy's backing out. So we just keep like rearranging it. And it's just, we're planning month by month, which we never do. We plan 5-month like lineup. Now it's month by month by month. And at a certain point, I get on the phone with Steph and she's like, look, if we don't put this out because Jimmy just doesn't like it or whatever. But in the beginning, it's like every time I call, it's like he hasn't watched it. I'm like, dude, it's 30 minutes long. It's 40 minutes. Like, what do you mean? I'm like, can we just like, he hasn't watched it. He's too busy. He hasn't watched it. Then it's like, he's not really sure about this, not sure about that. So what happens is Steph says to me, and I'm just being so nice because I'm like, all our money's invested in this thing. And like, I just like, I have to do whatever I have to. So I'm getting really impatient, but I'm being very kind. Like, I'm squeezing a pillow on the phone. Like, oh, you haven't watched it yet? That's okay. You know, and like squeezing the phone, like, oh my God. So Steph's like, if we end up bailing on this, because you gave us final cut, like, how will you guys react? Like, are you guys totally fucked? And I said, if you do that, and I had to clench my jaw, dude. Like, my jaw was about to crack. And I was like, if you did that, I would shake your hand and thank you for the opportunity. It's been amazing to get to do this and try something I've never done before. And like, I would love to leave the door open to work with you guys in the future.
Yeah.
And thank God I was that way, because in the end, Jimmy basically finally, like, Steph got tired of middleman. She's like, I'm just going to like link you up with Jimmy. Cause I couldn't even get Jimmy on the phone at this point. Since we agreed to it, I couldn't get him on the phone for a year. So I finally got on the call with him and I said, look, like, what's the deal? He's like, I just don't like it. I don't like the way I look at it. I don't like the way it's shot. I don't dig it. I don't like it. I feel bad because it's not your fault. You guys did a great job. It's just it's not my style. There's a lot of angles and artsiness to it. It's just not me. I don't want to do it. So I said, okay. I said, well, what can we do? He's like, how about this? How about I shoot a performance I'm going to do in like LA soon in a little nightclub, my style, one camera, I pay for it. And I'll just give it to you guys. It's like, if that's what it is, that's what it is. If it's that or nothing, I mean, we're like several grand invested in this at this point. We've told our audience. Yeah. We knew our audience wasn't going to buy for a minute that we shot that. It's one angle and it looks like it's very much just like a wide, like looks like a GoPro or something. We knew no one was going to believe that if you've seen our work that we did that project, or that we would brag about that it's coming out, right? So that was the compromise, but nobody was excited about it because he wasn't even promoting it. And then he announces that he's dropping a comedy special with Joe Rogan. And then he tells me that I can only play some of this set because the same one we recorded twice is going to be the Joe Rogan special. Yeah, I know.
Damn.
Right? But, I'm like, we have no contract. It's his material. It was a tough pill to swallow, but so this is the crazy part, though. We're 48 hours before the premiere, and nobody's excited about this thing, and he's not promoting it. And we keep kind of hinting and texting him, like, are you going to promote this? Clearly, he just gave us what he felt was a very haphazard performance just to try to, like, make even with us, because he felt bad enough, and I appreciate that. That's why we're still love them and have love for them. But I remember I had this Max Blumenthal performance we kind of ignored. It was his first time ever doing stand-up. And I knew that my guy from Palestine News Network had a backdoor to Max. And I'm like, okay, we're 2 days before performance. We haven't sold like any fucking tickets. It would be the most right brain shit ever that the biggest project we've ever done is sold the least amount of tickets in history. Like, no one's buying a ticket to this Jimmy Dore thing.
Yeah.
So I look up this Max Blumenthal footage and it's fucking amazing. And it's all Israel. And this is like,
nice.
Just after October 7th, the jokes are actually more relevant. We're way more pissed off now. And I'm like, this is fucking amazing. The jokes in this, like, I dare say this is better than Jimmy's. And I never really looked at it. I knew we shot it, but I just never thought to like really look too much into it. So I back channeled to Max and I'm like, yo, and he puts me in touch with Max and I say, like, my pitch is simple. I'm like, look, if I cut this special that you did with this phenomenal cameras of your first performance ever, because I had given him the footage, but I only agreed to give him like one angle because I was afraid that it would mess up the special we were doing. And I said, if I recut this whole thing for nothing, this 18-minute performance, as though it's like fucking Bill Hicks, like primo footage, just cut really clean, could we put it at the beginning of the Jimmy show? And he's like, and give it to you. And he's like, well, I already put it out kind of, so I'm kind of iffy about re-putting stuff out again, but like, you can take your shot at it and let me know what you think. And I just pulled this marathon. I ate a bunch of Adderall and just fucking spent like 20 hours putting it together. And I sent it to him and he fucking loved it. He's like, yo, he said to me, I think he said, like, why have I not been a comedian instead of a journalist my whole, like, he was fucking floored by the footage and the way it came together.
Nice.
And I was like, and I loved it. And I felt more proud of that than the Jimmy special we had shot before, like cut before it, all of it. I was like, this is really, this 20 minutes is really what we should have shot to begin with. And he promoted it. And then Jimmy promoted it because he saw Max was promoting it. Now that it kind of forced his hand a little bit, not in a negative, we did do it a little bit strategically, but he's like, wait, Max is pushing my live virtual screening and I'm not even pushing it. So now he's pushing it because he supported Max's comedy career. So now Jimmy and Max are doing it. And we ended up like, you know, not getting hurt that much on the project after 2 years. It could have been a several $1,000s loss. Wasn't quite that. We came close to breaking even and we raised money for Gaza. So like in the end, but so that's why it's hard to answer. Going back to your question is like, I thought parts of it were really funny. I loved the joke he told, which was in the second special, which I wasn't at, so I can't say we were going to drop the camera. But he said, you see people that wear the mask under the nose? Isn't that kind of like wearing a condom under your balls? And I just thought that was a very,
that's like, good.
Yeah. And that wasn't in the original special. Some of the other stuff, like the story you told about Joe Rogan, like there was some stuff that he did in that one that I thought was funnier. I feel like it felt too rehearsed that I was, you know, and then when I went to see him live, a few months ago just because we hadn't seen him in a long time and I wanted to just go out and support him. He was in Maryland. So we got free tickets, you know, we got comp tickets and we went out there. It was really nice of them to comp us tickets. And Max was there and he did even better 40 minutes on just Israel. It's all he does, just Israel the whole time. And that was great. But Jimmy's set was the same. Like I was doing the parts to Mark. And I told that him on the phone and the guy was like, it was the same set. The same inflictions. He's so good. He's such a consummate performer that like even the little moments that feel improv or reaction are planned. Like
he's massive
comedian, dude. He's a pro. I think I kind of dig the Blumenthal for at least for Right Brain, like the rawness of it. Like he's not really a pro comedian, and that feels really, you know, like there's something really raw about him. I think he's also a great comedian. I think he has such a huge future in comedy because he knows so much about the fucking world around us. He has so much ammunition. He knows who the spooks are in the CIA. He knows every coup that was ever, you know what I mean? He's so perfect. And he has such a dark, wry sense of humor that I just feel like that's the special we should have shot. And that's why we're never working with a big name like that again. Love the Jimmy Dore and Jimmy Brown's getting big. He's getting up there, but we'll never work with a big name like that again. By choice, to be honest. If we got asked to do another special with Jimmy Dore, we'd say, we love you, we love your work. We're probably not gonna.
I mean, it's still good you did it, and it's good that, you know, that Max dude, I love some of his videos and stuff, but I've never seen his like comedy, so I definitely need to check that out.
He is an amazing guy though, and he took me out to dinner and spent almost what I paid him when I went to LA. He is a generous, super kind, he is an amazing guy. Him and his wife, if I'm talking about separating business from friendship, they're just incredible people, very, very selfless. They don't get, they get shit on a lot, even by like the left or whatever. They're really good people. That's what I want to say. They are very good, kind-hearted people.
So everybody go check out that special. Go check out all Right Brain's work. And but Kevin, man, we covered a lot of fun stuff, man. Thanks for coming on the show. Where can people find you?
Just ignore my personal account. Just go to rightbraintv.com on Instagram. That's at rightbraintv, WRITE. Brain TV, rightbraintv.com, on Twitter we're rightbraintv, on TikTok we're rightbraintv. That's WRITE. But if you're not gonna look us up, go look up Monero, who's doing Gaza is our home. He's a filmmaker, deserves more credit and more views than we do, you know, making films about what's happening over there. And and of course, glory to the Houthis, glory to Hamas and Hezbollah.
Well, thanks for man. We talked about a lot of good stuff, man. I appreciate you. Be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, and fuck with Right Brain TV. Peace.